in today's video, I wanted to show you how I did this design, but before we start, make sure that you prep well the nails. And I already done that, so now what I'm gonna do is these cuts on the side because they serve me as a guide. For today's tutorial, I'm gonna be doing coffin shaped nails, so that's the reason why I closed off the form a lot more than usual. And also in this tutorial, I'm gonna be using two types of colored acrylic, but I'm gonna go ahead and start with this yellow acrylic, which is almost white. I think this color is so unique and it's one of my favorites, but on this first nail, I'm actually gonna keep things very simple. I'm only gonna be using this color and I'm gonna do these nails pretty long. They're gonna be about XL size kind of, but if you guys don't want them to be that long, that's fine because this design also works on short nails. And now that I'm done building up this first nail, of course, I'm gonna apply some pressure on the sides. What this is gonna do is that it's gonna make my nails look more natural and have more of a C shape. On this second nail, I'm gonna do things a little bit different because here I'm gonna build up this French nail. And like you guys can tell, I'm gonna be using this pink acrylic. I'm only gonna use these two colors because I wanted things to be pretty neutral and work for the fall time. So what I'm doing here is that I'm creating this small almond shape because this is gonna serve me as a base for me to create the French nail. And now that I have it done, I'm gonna take off the form and I'm gonna start filing the sides because I want everything to be very symmetrical. Otherwise, what can happen is that this French nail can end up looking a little bit weird. Now I'm gonna finish building up this French nail and I'm gonna use the yellow acrylic. Here what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna be creating pretty small beads and I'm gonna use my brush to do little bumps on the acrylic so I can move it around and create the shape that I want. And I don't know if you guys can tell, but I'm also gonna apply a little bit of this acrylic on top of the pink. I know that looks a little bit strange now, but this is gonna make my nails stronger. The way that I'm making this almond is that I'm using the pink acrylic and I'm making small beads. And I'm using my brush to move it around until both sides are curvy. Remember that one of the most important steps of making French nails is that this almond base has to be as symmetrical as possible. So I always recommend you to file it until both sides look pretty much exactly. Because once you start adding the yellow acrylic, there's nothing they can do about it. And remember that you still have to apply the form once again, so make sure that it's not ruined and make sure that it's symmetrical. To finish up this French nail, I'm gonna do the exact same thing that I've been telling you. I'm gonna be applying small beads and I'm gonna move it around until it's the shape that I like. A little tip that I have for you guys is to use the lines of the form as a guide, because in that way, it's going to be much easier to create straight sides. And of course, I'm gonna apply some pressure on the sides. This step is so important, so make sure that you don't miss it. And now on to the last nail. The first thing that I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna put the form and I'm gonna close it off. And now I'm gonna use the yellow acrylic and I'm gonna apply the first bead between the natural nail and the form. You guys can tell I'm also gonna keep things pretty simple here. And I'm gonna move the acrylic by doing little taps on it with my brush until it goes where I want it to go. And now that I have the shape done, I'm gonna add the last bead and I'm gonna push it upwards until it's near the cuticle. But make sure that it never touches the skin or the cuticle because what this is gonna do is that it's gonna cause lifting. And this is how these coffin shaped nails look like. Like you guys can tell, they're not perfect, but that's why I always say that filing is one of the most important steps. When I file nails, I like to start by filing the sides, and since these are coffin shape, I'm gonna put the file completely straight. This is how how the nails look like after filing the sides. Now the only thing left to do is to file the surface. And I like to do this step using my e-file, but if you guys want to, you can use a regular one. Here, what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna file down these nails until they're pretty thin. And also what you gotta do here is to make sure that these French nails are well filed, because like you guys can tell, they look much prettier this way. I think that adding a little bit of the acrylic on top of the pink makes it worth it, because now they're way stronger. This is how the nails look like after being filed. Now everything is ready and we can do the design. Before we start, I recommend you to clean off the nails, because after filing, there's always gonna be some dust left behind. So before we move on, I don't know if you guys can notice, but on the pink acrylic, it left some marbling. There's a little bit of dark spots on it, and honestly, I don't really like it. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna use this gel polish that has practically the same color, and I'm gonna go over it. If that didn't happen to you, you obviously don't have to do this first step. This is just something a little bit extra because I wanted to cover up these dark spots. And this is how these French nails look like. I think they look much better with this pink gel polish. Now we can finally move on to this cow print design. You guys are gonna need this dotting tool. Trust me, it's going to make the whole process much easier. And I'm also going to be using this black gel polish. You guys can tell this design is not really that complicated, because it's a very abstract type of print. So you guys can create whatever you think is gonna look great. The way that I'm doing this is that I'm using this tool to create this type of abstract dots. And honestly, I'm not thinking too much about where I'm placing them. I'm just kind of doing it randomly. And I don't know if you guys can tell, but I'm making the bigger ones first. Once I have that, I'm gonna go ahead and do tiny ones all around. And of course, I'm gonna cure everything for about 30 seconds. I don't know if you guys noticed, but something that I'm doing is that I'm not really following the shape of the French design. I'm actually gonna draw some of this cow print on top of the pink, just a little bit, but I think that it makes the whole design look more unique. Obviously, this is something personal, so if you guys don't like it, you don't have to do it. And even though I'm drawing some of this cow print on top of the pink, I'm still trying to follow the curvy line of the French design. And now that I'm done doing these two French nails, I'm gonna cure everything for about 30 seconds. Honestly, I love doing this type of animal print designs. I think they look so good. And now what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna create a little bit of designs on these two nails that were left simple. And I'm gonna use this nail art brush that is very thin, and this pink gel polish that actually looks a lot like the pink acrylic that I used earlier. And here what I'm gonna do is that first I'm gonna make this line in the middle of the nail. Then I'm gonna cover the left side of the nail with the pink gel polish. And of course, I'm gonna cure this nail for about 30 seconds. Remember that it's so important to keep curing the colors, because otherwise what's gonna happen is that our design is going to end up mixing. And on this last nail, I'm gonna be doing the same thing. First, I'm gonna do a line in the middle of the nail, and then I'm gonna cover up the left side. In these two nails, I'm also gonna be creating the cow print design, and I'm gonna be doing it the exact same way that I've been telling you. I recommend you to first start doing the bigger cow prints and then go over and draw the smaller ones. Because otherwise what's gonna happen is that you're not gonna have enough space to do the entire design. And when I do animal print, this is the way that I do it. First I start with the bigger ones, and then I go over and I do the smaller ones. Something different from the French nails is that here I'm actually following the line that I created. I'm not drawing any type of prints on top of the yellow acrylic. And of course, I'm gonna cure everything for about 30 seconds. And this is how the nails look like after doing the design. I think that it was pretty simple to make, but I think that it looks so unique. And now something extra that I'm gonna add is that I'm gonna make a line using this silver gel polish. It actually has a little bit of shine on it. And here what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna follow the line that I created earlier. I recommend you guys to make this line pretty thin, because otherwise what's gonna happen is that it can end up covering up some of the cow prints. And this is how the nails look like after adding the silver gel polish, but we're not completely done yet because we're missing the top coat. You guys know that the top coat adds a really pretty shine, but it's also going to make the design last longer because it's going to protect what we created. And what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to cover up all of the nails and I'm going to cure everything for about 60 seconds. And this is how the final design looks like. I think that it was pretty simple to make because like you guys can tell, the cow prints are actually pretty abstract, so you can kind of create whatever you want. I hope that you guys like this tutorial. If you did, please subscribe to my channel and like this video. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!